Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, lax rats alike, welcome back to another episode of the Crease Dive, and I am your host, Matt Nessler. And joining me today is everyone. We're all here. We're all listening right now. I am very excited to share the deep, deep findings I have found out about this entire Lars Tiffany not getting re-signed at Virginia saga. I've done a lot of research. I was not in school for journalism. I don't know if I ever took a journalism course. I am for sure 100% pushing as much of the journalism out there and integrity and playing by the rules as I can. I'm trying to double and triple check sources. I had a lot, and I mean a lot, of credible list of alumni, players, people close to the program, people within lacrosse. The list is deep. I spent 4 days kind of digging as deep as I could into this. And the last 24 hours have been pretty crazy. I've reached out to all the coaches for comment. Besides Shelly, I actually never shot Shelly a text. That's a missed connect there by me. But that's okay. I reached out to the three big guns that we're going to be discussing today. I reached out to for comment. Nothing for Ness. That's okay. I just want to put that out there ahead of the episode before anyone comes knocking. Everything everything Ness is going to tell you is his version of the story based on everything I gathered. I'm going to explain to you what I see as fact. How I view the story, and then I'm also going to address some rumors and some stuff just flying around on the internet that is, some of it's absurd, some of it's kind of funny, some of it has a little bit of truth to it. But overall, there a lot of these big rumors have truth to them. They're not all as fun and as juicy as the rumors flying around, but this story is deep, and I want to tell the players' truth. And I want to tell the truth of the alumni and the players on the team, and especially Lars Tiffany. I think Lars Tiffany was, after my research, I think there's a potential where Lars Tiffany was done a little dirty here, and I would love to get into the nitty gritty. I know a lot of people feel that way, and that's not new news. But for anyone out there watching, I got my 3 pages of notes. I've been doing a lot of digging, and I put it all down into one sheet to try to go through it. It's a one-man show here. We're hoping that changes with all the fellas listening. And just bear with me when we're battling through here. But let's go back to last season when McCabe, Millen, and the Virginia team didn't have a great year, and everyone likes to point fingers at the number one recruit in the country, McCabe, and his dad, and this and that. And last year wasn't a great year for UVA, and then this year did not start off well, and it was very easy for people to pile on and start these kind of stories and rumors, and I think that's where a lot of this started, with the Millens being at the forefront of this saga. I will tell you guys, full transparency, during my investigative journalism, right? You like that? All of your mom said. I found out that a lot of the stuff we're hearing about the Millens does not hold real weight. I think the biggest thing we need to address is that the dad, Mark Millen, everyone can have their opinions about him. I personally don't have a large opinion on Mark. I've never met him. I don't know him, but I do know for a fact that it is quite literally impossible to get across the desk of Carla Williams. We're talking about someone who is on the college football playoff committee. And there's people out there that believe that Mark Millen's marching into our office and asked for Lars to get fired. That's one of the big things that I want to address is, do I think Mark Millen's innocent in this saga, and do I think that it's all sunshine and rainbows there? No. Do I think he has influence on the game of lacrosse and potentially the program as a parent? Yes, I think he's for sure that personality, but I do not think he's puppeteering this behind the scenes. As much as I want that to be true, it makes a juicy story. That to me isn't the story here. And I have a lot more to dive into, but I think everyone was expecting me to come on here and shred, Mark Millen and what he's done at UVA. But the truth of the matter is this the people that push Lars out, it's closer to Lars than Mark Millen is, and we're gonna dive into that. Um, and everyone can have their opinions. I want to stick up for the kids the most. I think everything I've gathered, I had alumni, I had current players reach out to me and talk to me about the kids. I don't care much about the story about Mark Millen, because to me it's just complete bullshit about the storming of the AD and all that. There's been no accounts of that, but there has been tons of accounts in defense to the Millen kids. And I talked to guys that played with both of them, played with one of them, met them at alumni events. The kids are good kids. They like to party, like to have fun. They're homies with all the guys on the team. There's no talk of a locker room cancer. I had 34 different verified sources reach out to me with their names attached. Not one source, not one person gave me any indication that the Millens were, puppeteering this for real behind the scenes. Is Mark Millen a fan of Lars Tiffany? If I had to guess, probably not. But I don't think he has the pull people believe he has. And that's what I gathered from all this. And I certainly think his sons deserve just a little more grace. I know it's fun to gang up on them, but they're everyone I've talked to sticks up for them. There's no reason for them to. These guys all acknowledge, like, listen, Mark Millen is a lot, but the kids are great, and I think that's an important part of this. That the players I talked to and alumni that I talked to had the kids back the most, which was very telling. It's a little bit like when the media paints an NFL player as a locker room cancer, and then all of his teammates come out and say, I love the guy. He loves to compete. He just wants to win. He's great off the field. He's great in the locker room. But because the New York Post said that, he's a locker room cancer, all of a sudden they're locker room cancers and culture crushers. And so I'm not going to come on here and defend Mark Millen till I'm blue in the face and talk about the Millens, because I just want to get that out of the way. A big thing that was also floating around is the idea that these players led the charge. I'll give you guys this. It's fact. This is a fact that the players went into a lot of the starters. I don't know exactly who. I'm not going to give you guys names. A majority of the starters, and then some guys that got a lot of time, went into the AD's office or the assistant AD's. That to me doesn't matter whose office it was. But what matters is there was no ultimatum. There was no, hey, if you don't fire this, if you bring back Lars, we're all transferring. Do I think some of those kids would have entered the portal if they brought back Lars? Absolutely. I think 100% they were going to enter the portal. But they did not go into the AD's office and storm in and say, it's us or him. They all, the guys I talked to on the team, alumni, have verified that meeting happened. But it's not the way people think it is. It's not the ultimatum. That ultimatum, that rumor, that's going to come up a little later. And that ultimatum that people are talking about, it was not coming from the kids on the team. And we're going to dive into that. We are. I'm trying to get through my notes here, digging with me. The AD, this is also very big. The AD, I mean, this isn't news to anyone close to the program, but the AD hasn't necessarily gotten along with Lars, and Lars hasn't gotten along with the AD. I have multiple national champions reaching out to me, backing up the claim that, listen, Lars and her never got along. This wasn't like this didn't happen this year and last year because they didn't have great seasons. This was an ongoing issue when you saw UVA at its peak. When Lars Tiffany and the UVA and the Virginia Cavaliers were hoisting national titles, it was still bullshit behind the scenes. Some small comments from the AD, why are we even playing lacrosse? The players felt very disrespected by Carla Williams and the athletic department. And some of the players even pointed out, but there she is holding that trophy high and proud and taking credit for the national championships. And from what I've gathered, that's a little slimy given her knowledge on lacrosse. And a lot of guys pointed out that she comes from an SEC school. She's a big time player in the NCAA world. And she might truly not understand the significance of lacrosse at a school like Virginia and these schools on the East Coast. I know that lacrosse is little bro, like little guy on the totem pole. I'm not stupid. We can address that lacrosse isn't football and basketball while still supporting the team. You don't not show support for your team that's won you 6 national titles or 7 national titles, whatever it is, UVA, and especially the 2 you're claiming. You can't do that. If the team sucked and you want to kind of brush them off, that's fine. But to me, I don't think it's fair the way she's treated the athletic program, while also being aware that they're not rev generating sports like football and basketball. I get that, but that doesn't mean that you don't. That doesn't make it right what she has done and said, and how she's the perception she's given off to Virginia lacrosse. That has been a clear line through everything I've researched, is that Carla Williams and the athletic department and Virginia lacrosse do not go hand in hand. They don't love each other. They're certainly not supportive of one another. But when you're winning and you're hoisting national titles, everything can get brushed under the bridge. Everything can get brushed under. So that's a very important part of this story. The UVA funding is a big part of the story, but people know that. Again, I'm just going over facts and then can dive into some more the crazy rumors. But the funding played a huge issue. Lars and UVA was falling behind these other ACC schools. I got intel, or I don't know if it's public, but I talked to a few people that are really in tune with the ACC who told me that down in North Carolina, they got all their guys on in-state tuition in-state tuition, all athletes. So if you go to the University of North Carolina, your tuition goes from 30-something thousand or 40-something thousand down to like 16,000. So now all of a sudden you have more scholarships down there in North Carolina than you do in a place like Virginia, where they have to raise money and fund it. They're not getting that support from the athletic department. I know up in Notre Dame they got everything under the sun in Notre Dame. Don't even get me started at Syracuse. It's always been like that up there. It's like Virginia was starting to fall behind, and the last 2 years record and underperforming under the Virginia standard and the Lars standard certainly didn't help that. And I think acknowledging all these facts and pushing them towards, the big, I guess story here is going to be important, because these facts all play a part. And these are verified facts that, people online will say, oh, we know this, we know that. But, well, now I know for sure. It's easy for someone to tweet at me like, well, we knew this down in Virginia. Well, it's like, I didn't. I'm trying to verify everything I'm hearing as fact. And anything that 5-6 guys can verify from 10, 12 years apart from each other, to me, that is enough for me to go with it as Nestler's facts. These are Nestler facts. Any legal experts out there, these are Nestler facts. So if you're any of these guys trying to gotcha culture me, fucking relax. You're not gotcha culture Nest, because these are Nest facts, not normal facts. So you cover your ass mid-interview, Nest. That's thinking on your feet. We talked about the money issues. Lars, Tiffany, the juice in the story, and where a lot of people are waiting to see, like, how did this happen that Lars, Tiffany didn't get re-signed? And people want to point to the record the last 2 years, which to me isn't super great. However, what is great that Lars Tiffany has done is he had won the 2019 national championship, the 2021 national championship. He went to the Final Four in 2023 and the Final Four in 2024. Those 4 years are not far away from where we are right now. I feel like I'm taking fucking crazy pills that people are dismissing that 4 of the last 7 years, 6, because we're not going to count COVID, 4 of the last 6 seasons, he's been to the Final Four. Am I crazy? Are my facts wrong? To me, that is an insane reason to fire someone, because he had 2 relatively underwhelming years. Underwhelming is kind of an interesting word, because they won the ACC fucking championship this year. To me, this is where that story was like, it's not simple. This isn't just the AD and him didn't get along, the funding, and that's where I really started to dig. And everything I'm about to say is what I view as the truth. I'm not trying to blow up people's spots and rag on anyone, but what I found out is this idea that the players push Lars out has truth to it, in the fact that I think he might have lost the locker room a tad, and they came together. I know he lost the locker room a tad, and a big group of guys came together and rallied the players a little bit, like, hey, like, fuck Lars, let's do this for us. Players only meetings, weekly captains meetings, whatever you want to call them. these guys were aware of, they were addressing the culture issue that they saw, and they were saying, hey, fuck them, let's do this for us. And that's not uncommon in sports, and especially in lacrosse, where Lars Tiffany has to be a hard-o coach. Lars Tiffany has to ride your ass. Lars Tiffany has to ride his assistant's ass, which is a very important part of this story. Stay tuned. um, but the important part is that I have no clue what I was just saying, which is crazy considering we're 15 minutes in here. However, I was digging into Lars Tiffany treatment of people and record and how he got fired. But the fact of the matter is, it seemed fishy, and the idea that the players pushed him out, like I said, is not fully true. Were they pumped about Lars? No, but I don't think they were the sole proprietors of. I don't even know if that word works there. I don't know if they were the driving force to get him fired. I do think a big driving force to get him fired is, it does not seem like, from what I've heard, that Lars Tiffany had the support of his assistant coaches. I want to take time to exonerate Connor Schellenberger's name from this. Alumni, players, people I've talked to have said, listen, Schellenberger is an outlier here. He's not part of this, drama and info that you're getting from everyone and that I'm giving you. And so Connor Schellenberger exonerated of all charges. Other assistants, listen, it seems a lot like the relationship with Lars started to get sour, and right, wrong, or in between, that relationship kept getting worse. And I believe the coaches were slowly pinning guys against Lars. I don't think it was this grand plan to get Lars out. I don't think that was the plan. I think there were some disconnects, and the relationship started to get a little stale, like I said. And, maybe a player goes up to one of the coaches and says, hey, coach, I think we should do this. And the assistant says, yeah, I agree, but you know how Lars is. Or, yeah, you're right, but you know how Lars is. And to me, that's dropping wedges, putting wedges between people. Shout out Dukes, deleted tweet, wedges. Dukes was right. But to me, that's a little fishy. As an assistant coach, your job is to be a little closer to the players than the head coach and build the bridge. You can be a little more player coachy as an assistant coach, but the second you start trying to almost pin them against the coach a little bit, that's when it gets fishy. And it gets even fishier when your coach that's won you 2 national championships in the last 6 seasons, has been to 4 Final Fours, and won the ACC championship this year, doesn't get his contract renewed. That to me is where this story went. Everyone's pointing Mark Millen this, the AD that, and this part of the story stuck out to me is, where have the assistants been? I reached out to him for comment. They have Instagram and Twitter. They can put out a video saying I think Lars should have been renewed. I think Lars should have been renewed. That guy, Lars Tiffany, brought these guys in. Lars Tiffany brought these assistants into his university, and from my investigative journalism, it does not seem like these guys had his back. These are the most, this was the most telling part of the story to me, was the re-verifying and the verifying of, listen, you got to keep looking into those coaches. And I would get a little nugget here, a little nugget there. It's hard to, it is hard for me to get into the full details, because it is a little messy. It is a little messy, and there's real lives at stake there. And I don't want to make accusations and things like that I can't verify. But like I said, when I get 4 or 5 guys from different years and different angles on the program verifying this stuff, I'm confident going with it. And I am confident the coaches did not have Lars's back. If Cassis is out there and Greg's out there and Coach Greco's out there and they want to comment and speak otherwise, I'm happy to take what they say into account and push their story out there. Again, like I said, I reached out for comment because I don't think it's fair to make accusations and point the finger without giving them a chance to defend themselves. And with that being said, I think that is another piece. Do I think that because Kevin Cassis and Logan Greco have been working behind the scenes on a master plan to get Lars Tiffany fired? No, I don't believe that. Do I think they played a role in having him not get renewed? Absolutely. I don't know. It's hard to put the emphasis on how significant that role is because of how much other bullshit there is, because of how much fire there is. The players aren't innocent. The current players, some alums and some guys have come out and said, Lars has always been like that, and that's Lars. And listen, I've for sure heard that Lars Tiffany coaches his guys hard. He's on their ass, but to be honest, like I said, that's what you need to have this success, especially in a sport like college lacrosse. I mean, dickheads there are playing college lacrosse. You know how hard it is to manage 45, 19-year-old absolute dickheads? Like, Lars Tiffany can't be buddy-buddy with them all the time. He's got to get on their ass. But these alumni are coming to me with accounts saying, listen, I hated the guy when I was there, but the way he's being painted is ridiculous. I had verified guys that if you talk to, you would believe every word out of their mouth because of what they've accomplished at Virginia. And they've told me, I love Lars, I hate Lars, but the sentiments say the same of he's being done dirty here. And he's certainly, the statement from the university was fucking insane. I mean, that almost started this fire because you don't even really give your coach who brought you these titles and has made Virginia the name they are, don't really give them him the proper grace. And a lot of the alums felt a ton of disrespect for Lars, a ton. And I know these guys obviously like him because they won national championships with him, and Lars has brought guys on, and I understand that they're a little biased, but they also acknowledge, the parts of the story that I was able to verify that Lars, Tiffany, and the coaches, Lars had some outburst with the assistant coaches, and those outbursts were relatively public, games, practices, and some closed door stuff that, again, is hard for me to verify. And that's important to acknowledge that these are happening. That is Lars Tiffany an evil person? No. Is Lars Tiffany an aggressive, loud coach at times? From what I've gathered, yes. But he's also the same guy that's going to get on the bench with the guys in the weight room and bench with the players. He's also the guy that's running sprints with the team, at practice. I heard a story that there was guys, they would go out Saturday during the day, you go out, you win, you go get some beers after the game, you change, you get ready to go out, you absolutely buckled with the fellas, earn your beers on a Saturday. Even if you lose, make sure you play hard enough to earn them. The Virginia team goes out Saturday night, gets mangled. Sunday morning, you wake up, they would go to the field. I don't know, the setup is there. They'd lift, watch some film, and then go and fuck around on the turf a little bit. Throw the ball around. Sunny spring day, take their shirts off, throw around. And Lars Tiffany came out there and was chopping it up with them, throwing it around. And he took his shirt off, just super casually with the fellas, like as if he was just one of the boys. Quirky and a little weird, yeah. But that story made me crack up that this dude who talks about lacrosse in the most poetic way, and this dude who presents himself the way he does, is really just trying to be one of the boys and connect with his players. And like I said, I've had guys tell me they don't like Lars who are still sticking up for him. Unless those guys are smarter than me and they double flipped me and they're like, I got to tell Nessa I hated him, so when I gas him, it means more. Like, that would be a big brain play. Be an unreal play if someone did that, just to totally fuck with my investigation. Journalism is real journalism. But the outburst and the treatment of assistants was a big part to some of the issues this season. And I think part of the reason the players went into the athletic office is to discuss that. Listen, we don't want to leave. We love it here, but things have crossed lines with Lars a little bit, and in their eyes, from alums and other people's accounts and other players on the team. I've gotten both accounts from players that maybe he crossed the line and you lost the locker room a little bit, but it doesn't seem to me like there was anything that warranted warranted non-re-signing. Do I think some of the stories I heard about the outbursts are pretty crazy? Yeah, but that doesn't shock me that that's happening at any school. They're playing the highest level of lacrosse, trying to win a national championship. Of course, there's going to be, outburst. But to then, there was I don't know how, if I haven't seen the report, so I don't know how to say for fact, but I verified and I believe there was a report filed against Lars, an official complaint or HR violation or something with the athletic department, and it put Lars under a little bit of surveillance and a bit of a almost probationary period with the AD and the athletic department. And that to me is sketchy. That's coming from in-house. That's an in-house complaint coming from his guy that he's probably scheming up with. And the the idea that Lars was under that scope, right? And then the team is kind of rallying like, fuck them, let's just do this for us, and they go and have all this success. To me, that's I don't know. To me, that should be celebrated, not knocked. A lot of people are pointing, oh, it was a disaster all season, but uh, yeah, it wasn't great in the beginning, but you judge a season on it, the full scope of it. Is a first round exit great for Virginia? No, it was a shitty loss to Georgetown, but I don't think the year was a failure. I think it showed how close the players were, how close that locker room was. And I think that it shows that the right, wrong, or in between, it was working. The wins were starting to stack up. It doesn't matter how you get wins. The players don't have to love Lars. That's not uncommon for players to not like their head coach while they're in college. I mean, like, shit, Steve Colfer was my head coach at Cabrini. I used to butt heads with him all the time. I fucking hated the guy up and down. I love Colfer. He's a legend of the game. He's a legend to me. He's done a ton for me and other alumni. There was a time when I was at Cabrini where I would have sworn I'd meet him in a boxing ring and take his head off. And now I'm looking to grab a beer with him whenever I can. So I can relate to that. I understand that it's not always sunshine and rainbows with your coach, but I don't think that that's fair to not re-sign the guy. And I don't think that that's the only reason they didn't re-sign him. And that's why I think what the assistants were doing behind the scenes is really the shady part of all this. I think there were a bit of a driving force there, pushing. I said, I don't think it's a full puppeteering, like, hey, let's get Lars out of here. But it was more subtle things like that. And it just was a long, long 2 years. And also, I want to say something. I wanted to address something. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. Dukes, shout out Dukes. Dukes put out a tweet saying something about everything changing in 2024 in Virginia. And a lot of people immediately jumped on the Millens because it's easy to do so. And he was like, what's funny? I wasn't talking about the Millens. He was talking about Cassis getting hired. And I reached out to Cassis, would have loved to hear from him, his point of view. But, from what I've heard, there wasn't, it wasn't great with him and Lars either. They come from different, to me as coaches, they have much different views on the game. Cassis is more of a military background, up and down, kind of like one foot after the other type of guy. And Lars is much more of it's the creator game, play it the way you want to play it, whatever you got to do to get ready on game day, and have fun. And that, which is funny because I was just talking about how you can snap. But I think it's important to realize that relationship with the coaches started to waver, and it seems like they did not have his back. It seems like the ultimatum that everyone's been talking about, this big ultimatum, if anything, if there was an ultimatum, it's hard for me to verify if there was. If there was, it came from the coaches, did not come from the players. And I can say that pretty confidently, but I can't say that it happened. I can't say that they gave an ultimatum confidently because I am not sure. I have heard that, but I want to make sure I'm very clear in like what I'm addressing. It's like I don't think that's part of my story is the coaches giving an ultimatum. I do think the coaches played a massive part in Lars Tiffany being fired. The same, I think, if we were to do a quick review, well, we're not done yet, but a quick review would be the four main parts are Lars and the AD have been butting heads. Like I said, with the guys that were winning national championships there, they've been butting heads since then. I think funding has been a big issue for Virginia lacrosse as a whole, making Lars' job more difficult. I think the players did have an impact on Lars being pushed out, but I don't think it was this grand scheme of theirs to get him out. I think they were just a little unhappy, didn't like the way it was potentially treating some other players and coaches, and that's why they went to the AD. And the fourth and the fifth 6, whatever the fuck I am, reason is the coaches not having his back and ushering him out the door a little bit, which I think is fucked up. I think him bringing them in and having them do that is where the alumni really feel that he was backstabbed. Um, and I think that's important to tell. I don't think it's fair for a legendary coach like Lars Tiffany to get stabbed in the back like that by his assistant coaches. Um, I think it's important to address that Lars Tiffany's not perfect, but again, the idea. Some people are saying, some of the people I talked to, like, oh, I mean, it's easy why he was fired. It wasn't this. He didn't have a great record here, and it's not easy why he got fired. It is honestly absurd. I keep using the term fired. He basically got fired. I mean, everything, he didn't resign. That's the same. It's the same thing. He wanted to go back. They fired him. He wanted to go back to Virginia. There was a contract. This is a nugget for you. There was a contract on the table this year, middle of the season. Contract on the table for Lars. Little disrespectful of a contract, from what I heard, due to the funding and the AD being a prick. But there was a little back and forth, maybe a loss to Towson. Potentially Lars tried to sign it. This was a little harder to verify, and then the offer went bye-bye. I've also heard, negotiations kind of were going back and forth, and they couldn't get through those negotiations. But I know there was an offer. There was an offer this season, during this season. That is 100% true. What has happened since then is a little tougher to verify. The end with Lars and the program does basically come down to not signing a contract. And I heard they both had just non-negotiables they wouldn't budge on. I think the pre-existing butting of heads certainly plays a role there. And I think potentially Lars being under investigation and these coaches potentially going behind his back also had a big role in it towards the end. And it just became so messy that now we're here and there's rumors flying everywhere. I'm going to have burner accounts up my ass bitching to me about how I didn't come on here and talk about it, the Millens and how they're doing it. I'm going to have people coming at me saying, you don't know what you're talking about and you're full of shit, this and that. I don't give a single fuck. I loved getting into the story. I have some rumors and stuff to address, and I want to go through my paper with you guys and talk more about what I've uncovered. And it's been really fun. And the true story is that Lars was done wrong by Virginia athletics. And I think that's very important to make sure that gets acknowledged. I think it's been real quiet on UVA's side, which is just super telling about the entire situation. Bear with me while I go through my notes for a second here. Lars Tiffany's winning resume. Sorry for the delay here, fellas. You guys, that was a good 30 minutes. We're not done yet. Oh, I did have a note. This is interesting. So I don't know anything about recruiting, really. I don't stay too in tune with high school lacrosse besides the Chatham Cougars. Oh, way to shout the Chatham Cougars. Hometown, Chatham boys, shout the Cougs. Morris County Championship. Morris County champions. First time ever in school history. Suck nuts, Delby. Woo! Had to get that one out. That one felt great. Wow. Didn't even think about that. But back to high school recruiting. The recruiting class at Virginia in 2027 is like apparently, or maybe 2028, is like apparently like a mess. Like there's like no one in it. And like they have like some big decommits. No 5 stars. It might be the 28 class. I'm not that nitty gritty. I was not getting into the nitty gritty of lacrosse recruiting. I had enough of that bullshit when I was in high school. So it's definitely odd that, UNC and North Carolina and Notre Dame and Syracuse have 10, 12 commits and X amount of 5 stars. And like, I got info that Virginia had like a handful of commits, no 5 stars. So that is a little telling of what's been going on behind the scenes. I can't talk confidently on NIL and funding and all that. I just know it's a mess at UVA. I know they had to raise a lot of fucking money, like $4 or $5 million to get like one scholarship or a half a scholarship. So these guys are like breaking the bank just to like barely even catch up to schools like UNC, like I mentioned earlier, who have 26 something scholarships. I don't know how to verify that exactly, but The amount, I should say. But that's an important part as well, that it hasn't been just like a locker the locker room issues are real. There was a bit of a culture issue there, but the locker room issues aren't within the team. Like, that's what was going on social media, was that like these kids were kind of all like against one another, and it was like I said, the Millen brothers are running it, and everyone fucking hates them. And like, to me, that's so stupid when just so many people were coming out defending them. And it wasn't just a Millen defense. It was, here's the story, what's going on. And then I would ask some questions about the Millens, because I knew that's something I wanted to dive into because of the Twitter situation and everyone just piling on. But um, it's been crazy. Some rumors I've heard that are not true. Um, the blackmail. Oh, well, this one was juicy. I wanted this to be true. Like, someone out there is still trying to tell me it is. There's apparently some rumors that there are some like hidden cameras and potentially trying to catch Lars in the act of one of his outbursts, but I'm not sure. Like, the story lines up with trying to get Lars, and how I saw the coaches kind of backstabbing him, but I don't think that's real. It sounds fun. That's when I thought this story was about to go full soap opera, um, which it has. This story is way bigger than it should be, as far as like the amount of mess there is behind the scenes. I personally thought UVA athletics was like chilling. Like, I thought those guys at UVA lacrosse were fucking top of the totem pole fellas, living the good life. I had no clue they're nickel and diamond like the Cabrini boys. Like, school's about to get fucking bought, but I know that's not true, and I'm trying to keep it light at the end. But that is one that I thought was very interesting. The the Millen puppet master I talked on, like, it's just such a ridiculous statement. Like, I don't. Like I said, I think Mark Millen has influence on the team. And I think he's involved around the program, but I don't think he's actually hands on with the team or going into offices. And like I said about the AD being so high level, I mean, the college football playoff committee is arguably the most exclusive NCAA like committee there is. I don't fuck the NCAA. I hate all those pricks up in the committee because they're all scumbags who don't care about the players or growing the sport of lacrosse. There's money hungry pricks, but like, that's a very high level group. That's a high commitment, and like, she is not under any world going to be given Mark Millen the time of day, and he's a grain of sand on her radar. Imagine the fucking donors and people with influence and money that are coming across Carla Williams for UVA basketball and UVA football. Those guys could buy the Virginia lacrosse team if they wanted to. She's not giving the time of day to these lacrosse guys. She doesn't care, which is important. It is important to acknowledge. Everyone's like, oh, everyone's known that she doesn't care. That doesn't make it okay. That's a problem. Lars Tiffany had to battle through that and win national championships with no support from the athletic department. The players felt that. They felt the lack of support. And a player I talked to, quote here, was, we won it in spite of Carla Williams. It's kind of similar vibe to where like the players this year were, hey, let's win it in spite of, let's win in spite of Lars. Similar kind of vibe there. But I don't think the players are necessarily the evil ones here. I think they probably influenced the decision. I think the real, just like the slimy cavalier you're going to see, you guys know who the slimy Cavs are. There's two guys on the big board that I think really did Lars wrong behind the scenes. But again, I don't think that's like 95% of the reason Lars got fired. I think this was a bubble waiting to pop, and that's all just small factors, that went into it. The coup, the inside coup that like, again, the coup had truth to it. There is truth that Lars had lost it, and like we're going in circles now, but the coup had truth. But it's not the fucking fun, cool, drawing on a whiteboard like, oh, we're gonna get him by doing this. Millen, you're gonna do that. Hey, Kyle Morris, you're gonna do this, and then we're gonna have the assistant do that. Like, it wasn't a fucking planned operation. it just so happened that these guys being a little slimy and not having Lars's back and the players and everything, like it just snowballed into more of a reason for Lars not to come back. And certainly doesn't help when you're negotiating with someone you don't like and doesn't like you. What really happened? I mean, we went there. I think to me that's a big chunk of what I've gathered. I think the wedge is important that I think was starting to get put in by the coaches. Small wedges. You guys have to believe me. I'm telling you, this was small stuff that snowballed and snowballed and snowballed into a big issue. And it was not the grand conspiracy we think, but I don't think guys are innocent. And I've been told to keep my eyes peeled for some stuff that might come out about potential investigations with Lars, but we'll see. I mean, I don't know if this story is fully over. I don't know if what I just talked about is allowed to be talked about, and we're going to find out when I press the post button for sure. So I really appreciate all the guys that helped me make the story a little clearer. To summarize in the simplest form, I'm going to do basically just a 2-minute recap of everything and how I think it knocked Lars out of the University of Virginia. And it starts with, winning records and not having a great record. I think that's a part of it. That's one. I think the coaches drawing a wedge between them is a big part of it. I think the coaches going behind his back to the AD, apparently, allegedly, and allegedly filing a complaint is certainly telling. I think the fundraising is a massive issue and will continue to be an issue for Virginia athletics. I do think the players going to the AD most likely had a negative effect on Lars staying. But I don't think obviously that was their intent, but it wasn't an ultimatum like people painted. And if the coaching search is interesting, depending on who the next coach is, so we'll see how that turns out. I'm rooting for Lars. I'm rooting for UVA. I think all the alums just want to see the program have the truth come out that they think Lars was done dirty. They're not 100% supportive of the current AD and athletic department, and it's going to be an interesting search in next couple years for UVA. I would love to see him stay on top, but who knows? I mean, it's definitely came to a shock to me that Lars was getting let go at all. That's how this all started when I said, I'm hearing a rumor that's going to shock you. The more I dug into it, that's why people close to the program said, no shit, he was not coming back. Or we knew this because there were so many issues. You could be a friend of a friend and be like, oh, I heard this story and I heard that. And I deciphered through a lot of that. A lot of, hey, my friend plays at UVA and this. And I appreciate those guys reaching out, and that information was helpful in my investigation. I love calling investigation. It makes me feel fucking proper and professional with my Xbox mic headset on, sitting in my office at work at 7:00 on a Friday, Memorial Day weekend, to give you guys this story. People don't think I love the game. I'm addicted to the game. I'm wearing my Cabrini lacrosse quarter zip. I think I'm down weight. I haven't gotten on the scale. Skinny Nest is back. Tap in on Twitter. Tap in on Instagram. I'm going to keep talking about the story until everyone tells me to shut the fuck up. And if more truth comes out, I'm going to tell it. I didn't want to come on here and point fingers and make this about one person's fault and try to tear anyone down, but I wanted to tell the full truth and acknowledge both sides as best as I could. And I do think I did that, and I hope you guys feel the same. I think I'm going to cut it very shortly, go down the shore, pop 100 edibles and melt away. It's going to rain all weekend. The Jersey Shore bars are going to be packed. Not really dying to be in a packed bar. Would rather chill with the fellas and mellow out. We got some great lacrosse on tomorrow. Previewing the games on Sirius XM Radio, 11 a.m. If you're listening for 11 a.m. and you have Sirius XM Radio, you turn it the fuck on at 11 a.m. We're going nuclear. We're telling the story on the radio. We're talking about the games. So the rest of my time is going to be I'm defending Lars' honor, protect Brendan Millen at all cost. McCabe Millen, guest on the Crease Dive. We will be. I'm gonna fucking find a way to get McCabe Millen back on. Hopefully, hopefully he comes back on. And I'm certainly going to make sure the alumni story gets told properly and keep pushing that out there that they feel he was done wrong. I don't want to like make too many accusations about the assistant coaches and what they've done, but it's certainly it's there. I think there's a little amber there. I think there's an amber sitting there. I've run through all this smoke. The fire department's here. We've put out all the fire, and I'm sitting there, and there's just one last amber. It's just staring back at me, glowing orange, just begging me to come over and pick it up. But I know I can't because it's too fucking hot and it'll burn my hand. However, I think there's something left in this story. I think we're at 98% of what happened. To be honest, I'm at 90%. I think I told you guys like 95. I'm trying not to hold back anything I heard to dump the truth to you guys and let people draw their own conclusions. But I think there's a little more, and I'm excited to find out if there is. And that's really it. That's it for Ness. I hope you guys enjoyed my story. I'm going to probably write a little bit about it, make a short video for those fucks who can't watch or listen to a 45-minute podcast. If you need your freight moved, reach out to Nest. I'm moving freight. I got box trucks. I got full trucks. I got Sprinter vans. We're moving international. You got shipping containers. That's how you plug in your real job. I got 7 jobs. So dope. I'm doing this at my other job. It's an incredible multitask out of Nest. I love you guys. It's been tons of fun. I definitely am feeling a lot of the love. It's hard not to smile and be happy that people are very interested in this story, and I'm hope I'm doing a good job telling it. I hope I've done this both professionally, lightheartedly, and keeping it entertaining. Cabrini, till the day I die. Shout out all the boys. I know I did it before, but it's been 7 years since we won the Natty. Those guys mean a lot to me. Those are some of my best friends for life. Older guys, younger guys, never be afraid to reach out. I always love seeing your text. Super supportive group, family there, and I am appreciative of you. In 3 years, we will be out on that field celebrating our 10-year anniversary with our rings that no longer fit my chubby finger. So shout out Cabrini, long live the Cavs, shout out the boys. And, I think there might be some more to this story. I really do hope I hit on everything. I'm trying to think on the spot if I forgot, but I'm fairly confident that what I've given you guys is what I see as the truth. And that's what's important to me, is that I'm giving you guys my version. And that's probably it for me. If I have anything else to say, you'll hear this little click, and I will come back. Make sure when you exit out of the podcast that there's not an extra 2 minutes, because I could easily flip this computer open later tonight and record. But I appreciate you guys. It's been tons of fun. Reach out to me, Twitter, Instagram. We're going nuclear. Merch is going live. No, I'm not just selling merch because we got a little bit of clout. I'm selling merch because I love it, and I sold it last year, and now none of you pricks bought it, and now I'm doing it because we have a little bit of clout. So I was totally lying before. But merch is coming back out. My face on it, Duke's face on it, Jordy's face on it, Crease Dive everywhere. Probably have a Cabrini line because fuck that. That's my logo, Real Cavaliers. But have fun down Memorial Day weekend. Have fun enjoying the games. The sport of lacrosse. To be honest, I think it's important the truth gets told, and I think Lars Tiffany's done more than enough for the sport of lacrosse and the University of Virginia that he deserves much better than this. And I hope the alumni like the version I told, both sides, the guys that told me good and bad. And we'll see. Love you guys. And we'll be keeping it low to high till the day we die. We out.